author rights that we are studying together, and the patent law, sorry, that is going to be taught to you. That is the industrial aspect of intellectual property. Of course, there's more than just patent law. You remember I told you a few words, and I'm going to say a little bit more about brands. Also, you have different protection systems that are part of industrial property, but the subject is too wide. There's too many things to study. So the most interesting for you is to focus on patent law, and that's what Francois is going to show you today. And well, we'll have a little bit of interaction during the lecture. And once more, if you have questions, it's only 2 hours, so it's a little bit short regarding how many information we're going to receive. We're going to try to make that as efficient as always.
Seems to be working. Okay, so he told you everything already. I made some slide about the plan of the presentation, and I'll come back to this slide as we progress. So that was the patent first point. After what's the patent on, and after what rights, and then small part, because it's less systematic and more complicated, how to enforce the patent. So, on attaque direct. Okay, so in every human creation, you can see several aspects, which I like to illustrate on the cube. There is always, I would say, a first part that is purely intellectual. Here on the right side of the cube. And also there are different other aspects, more physical. One part is called mainly by the author right, that Karim told you about. And another part is covered by the patent. And as always, everything about trademark is not on this slide. So here I put main qualificative. Different elements. Some example for author right, which are everything that is aesthetic. We told you about that, but also program code, and only program code in computer science. I'll tell you later why.
Maybe a different thing. Maybe a different explanation.
Yes. And about patent, everything that is mainly technical, that can be a device or system or method, a way to do things, or use. It's also a kind of way to do things. So.
Can you stick to the first one?
Yeah.
To your cube. Can you get back to the cube?
Yeah.
So you remember that when we talked last week, I told you that ideas are not protected for author rights, like pure ideas. So this is the same for all of those intellectual property aspects. And that would represent this intellectual part of the cube, you see? So that's what's underlying to any creation, but it's just underlying. Therefore, we cannot protect it as long as it's not materialized, which happened for author rights the way we talked about it, just by the formalization of it. And when we speak about patent law, through the patent process that is going to be described today.
So as a first step in the patent subject, what's a patent? And in a very few sentences, you have a big part of it. What's a patent? It's a property. Well, it's a title of property. It's not a physical object that you could be the owner of. You can be the owner of a patent, but it's an immaterial thing. So physically, there is only the title. It gives the owner a monopoly on an invention, which is both temporary, not eternal, and given by states. We come back after. On what? On an invention, we told you. I come back later also on that. Well, it has to be a novel invention. An invention that has already been done by someone else, even if you were not aware of it, cannot be patented again. We'll see that also. And a point that we will not extend on after, but it's still important. This right, which is a right to forbid something to other, is given to the owner of the patent in exchange of something, in exchange of publishing the patent, and with the patent, the knowledge that should be able to enable others to reproduce invention. So we published how to do it, and in exchange of that, if it's novel, we can get a monopoly on it. Other people are aware of it, have the information, are supposed to be able to do it, but they don't have the right yet. Okay? So that's what patent is. Now, to have a patent, create one. The applicant has to applicate, to file the application. In French, demande de brevet, not a patent, but a patent application. And after that, it still has to be examined in order to check that it's really an invention, that it's really novel and inventive. So that's how to create it. Lifetime, 20 years, that's a maximum. You can have less if you don't pay, but you cannot have more than 20 years. And also here, I put that it was given by state with an S when there are several of them. So if it's given by the state, of course, it's only valid on one territory for each state. So it's country dependent. If you have a patent in France, it may be not valid in the US, and inversely, and with every country. Okay, some basic point.
So,
Yeah.
so does that mean if someone has a patent in USA, I can reproduce the things in France? Yes?
We cannot forbid you from doing the same thing in France if it's only protected in the US.
Yeah.
But you won't be protected by your creation or your invention because it's already existing. Yes, there's already a patent on the product, so you can redo it.
But you cannot have a new patent on it.
That's one of the issues that goes around that we talk a little bit later when we talk about medicine noticeable drugs that are produced in some countries and some other countries. If you don't have the protection in some of those countries, they can easily reproduce those medicine and then even sell it usually in the black market because they're gonna export those medicine that they have the right to do, and then after they go on the ground and then they will transfer that to the black market. We're gonna speak about it.
So after that, I made a little reminder of other tools of the IP toolbox. Well, here it's more industrial property, not intellectual property, which is wider, but industrial. I won't be talking at all anymore of author right, which is only intellectual property and not industrial. Yeah.
Okay.
So there are the patents.
So no words on software.
Hmm?
No words on software. Tu dis rien de software.
Yes, a bit about software, yes. That's all right. So there are patents, but there are also designs, which are more a problem of aesthetic. And I said that aesthetic is in author right, but aesthetic may also be in designs or design patents in the US. They are the same patent word here, so that's a bit confusing. But the real patent, of course, mine, Real patent, that's a utility patent, or even, or possibly a utility model. When it's a design patent, it's only about aesthetic, and that's not the same right, same property. Well, there are trademarks. I suppose you heard about it. Not yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet a lot.
We're going to talk about it. I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about it.
Okay. Well, still a line about author right. What I would call standard author right here, just like for books or music or movies, and for software, that's a specific problem. There are also other rights, industrial property rights, especially about printed board, topography, almost drawing, databases, a lot of data together and arranged so as to be useful, and also still other right about animal and vegetable production process. So that's the toolbox. Well, not about the trademark anymore. So that's almost the same slide. Other kind of industrial property without trademark here. So now back to the patent. I mean the utility patent, not the design patent. I should not talk about it anymore.
Let's call it patent.
Yes. Okay, so what's a patent? Almost the same slide. That's a property. That's a private property, which means that it's not one of the human rights. If you have made an invention, maybe you can get a patent, but it's not systematic. Back about the monopoly given by states. Oops. By states. So that's why it's country dependent. Creation, filing and examination, and lifetime. Okay, that's a max. Now, just a few information about who is going to enforce this right and to judge about this right. Are you entitled to it or not? Well, for France, that's that's the name of the law. French word, French law. In Europe, there is a European patent law, which is the European Patent Convention, and two kinds of patent with the name of the office, European Patent Office, some key dates, first patent and a big change in patent. Unitary patent, first date, the date of the law, but it was not enforced before, well, now.
Maybe that's something we can explain shortly. So, why do you have two types of European patents? Because we used to have something that we call the European patent. That is not a European patent. Okay? All this to make it
It's a patent, it's examined as one patent, but after that, it became national patents in every country.
So you remember this aspect of being related to the country. So the thing is, you go and you fill in front of the European office, okay? And the examination process is at the European level. And once the patent can be granted to you, you have to decide in what country you want to apply. Okay, so you can decide, I want to go to France, I want to go to Spain, but I don't want to go to Germany, or I don't want to go to Norway, and that's the European patent, which means it's still, they call it European, but it's still country dependent. Yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to have one title of property in France, one in Spain, one in Norway. Okay. The unitary patent was a long process because everyone has to agree at the same level for the same process.
And
also,
not only for examination, but also for counterfeiting and for judging.
And that creates problem because those patents, they're state-related offices, but they also have some like financial issues. And when you pay those taxes, you pay to each and every office. Yeah. So when you pay in France, France receives some taxes. When you pay in Spain, Spain is going to receive some taxes. When you have this unitary patent, you have a real European patent that where everything is done at the European level.
Well, 17 countries
that agree on the same rules,
yes.
Which means you're not going to pay to each and every country anymore. the translation are simplified, or I think
Yes.
it's now, and it costs you less money. Okay?
Less
So that's
money.
a simplification of that system
Yeah.
that leads to this unitary patent. That's why you have two different denominations. Okay? So the European one is not a real European one, and the unitary one is
Yeah. And
the real one.
the trick is that in Europe you have 40 countries for the patent Europe, while there are only 17 countries within the unitary patent. So we still have a lot of countries with a mixed European patent, European and common examination, and after dividing into several countries.
No, we also.
Okay, I'm interrupting a lot.
I have the question of why would I go with like the European patent to specific countries and not for all? Since the patent is going to give me.
Politics.
Ah,
So it's
politics and money.
yeah. So
But
okay.
the taxes only goes if somebody buys, like uses my patents, no? So I am earning money. still.
Well, I don't mean the money that the owner will receive. I mean the money that he will have to pay in order to validate and to renew every year his patent.
Do you remember the mess between Apple and Samsung at some point where they were arguing about patents? You heard about that story? That was what,
The
6-7 years ago?
Design?
That's the thing, not only design. The thing is like in each and every country they were fighting. So at some point I think Apple started saying, oh, Samsung is copying us on some patents. And Samsung are like, oh really? You think so? But no, you are copying us on some patents. And they started fighting on different patents, country to country. And in some they win, in some they lose, and even on the same patent in two different countries they can have different decisions. Okay? The thing is, there's a certain uncertainty. Okay, I'm gonna say it later. and then you take a risk, a legal risk. Okay? So depending on how you want to enforce your patent, you might choose the one or the other. If you want to be country dependent, you think, okay, if someone attacks me in Spain, my patent will still be valid in France. Okay? Maybe he's going to sue you later in France. But it takes more money, more time, more. Okay? So some companies decide to have this strategy that if I want to have a solid patent, I'm going to protect it through the whole system. Okay? Because it's more robust, because there's more action to lead, there's more. And if you want to make it efficient, like time-wise and money-wise, then you're going to go to the unitary patent because that's easier for you. But if your patent falls for any legal reason, it falls for all of the countries at the same time, all the countries that are covered.
Well, yeah. So, answer to the question?
Yes.
Okay.
So in the case of patent, since it's state dependent, he mentioned that I can reproduce the same thing, but I don't have the patent over it. But can I import from a country? Like I'm in the USA, I have a patent
Yeah.
for something.
Importing is the same as manufacturing, for the patent point of view.
Okay. So
If
only
you-
the patent owner he can issue that in that country,
Hmm?
right?
Sorry.
But it's yes, and it's going to be answered later because
Yeah.
once we're developing what can you do, first we need to see what's the patent, yeah, what is it, how it
Yeah.
works, what are the conditions. And then the question is, once you have it, what can you do with it? Okay, what's allowed, what's not allowed.
Well, as a country in the US, that's the name of the law, and here that's not really a law, the World Trade Organization. It's not a law, but that's a general agreement. That means that if a country wants to be within the WTO, it has to enforce some law, some patent laws, which has been signed into the TRIPS agreements. So that's one reason, for example, why India finally has patents about drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, because they wanted to, India wanted to go into the World Trade Organization, so they had to have a drug patent. Before they were not. So let's come a bit into what can be patented or not. Yes, two big points are what can be patented or not, because it will be examined by any office so as to decide whether or not a patent application will be granted as a patent. And the other point is, a big point, how to define and obtain this patent. Here there is money, here there is techniques. What are the criteria? Main four criteria that are almost the same in all over the world. We said it has to be an invention, which means here, as for patents, invention means something technical, not purely intellectual, not the right side of the queue. It has to be possible to get, it has to be industrial, meaning an industrial application, possible, which is very wide, even agriculture, that's industrial, but some field, we'll see, like the health, the human body, have been defined as being not industrial in itself. So two things about the kind of invention, the nature même, the nature, the pure nature of invention, and here that's to be compared with what existed before. First criteria is it has to be novel, meaning different from which is defined as a prior art, or state of the technique, so a synonym. Yes, yeah, but prior art. All that was publicly disclosed before filing date, that's important, and also worldwide. Even if you apply only for a French patent, you still have to be novel, even compared with what was in China 2,000 years ago. Something absolute worldwide. Publicly disclosed, I think I'll come back after on that. And also it has to be, I would say, novel enough, which is called an inventive step. It is non-obvious. And to prior art, which is the same as here, almost. Okay, so we have four criteria. I'll speak a bit more about all of them, but that's something important, I think. Okay, what's an invention, special invention, and industrial application? I said it has to be technical. The way I will move my mouse is not something technical. The fact that I can roll it here, which has a technical effect, that can be an invention. Not the gesture I'm doing, but the fact that the mouse includes a rollable.
Whatever technique is used.
Yes, wheel. Okay, technical. Well, it may be either a technical solution, or also sometimes, not so often, just the fact that you identify a technical problem that was not known or not identified before. Sometimes, as soon as you have the problem, it's easy to find the solution. So it could be said that, well, solution is not inventive. Yes, but if it was not easy to know what was the problem, then it still can be seen as an invention. Okay, technical part. Several kinds, example of kinds. New solution, even if the technical problem is already known. Selecting an optimal solution, that's something a bit specific, especially for materials and sometimes or chemical. If you choose a specific range, for example, of temperature, specific and relevant range that give an advantage, a technical advantage, then you can have a patent even if it was already known before to use a wide range. New technical effect also, and formulating, as I said, formulating a new technical problem, or let's say a problem that was not known before.
One example of identifying a new technical effect could be in medicine, in drugs.
Yeah.
When you have an existing drug, okay, that you know has an effect on a specific disease,
Such as antibiotics.
for instance, and all of a sudden you discover that there's a new effect, okay, there's a new way of applying this medicine to
For
something
gastric
else.
ulcer, for example. One day, scientific identified that the gastric ulcer was caused by bacteria. C'est ça?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Helicobacter.
So as soon as you have this information, it's obvious. You just have to use antibiotics against bacteria. But before, it wasn't known that there were bacteria for doing this disease. So that's an example of a new use, a new technical effect, or more a technical problem.
My examples are funny. So you have two well-known ones. Okay, one is a medicine that was used for.
Which one?
I don't want to state it because it's too obvious. I think it was for hypertension or something. And they figure out that it gives to old men
Okay.
some new.
Hypertension and also Parkinson.
Maybe, yeah. So they discovered this secondary effect that was accidental. They were trying it on people, and those people seemed especially happy, more than the usual. So they figure out, oh, great.
In specific situations.
And another well-known medicine was known for to attack the prostatic hypertrophy. So people that have a prostate that grows too much. So in order to control that, you used to take a pill. And same during the studies, they later on, the medicine was accepted. It was on the market, but there was a side effect that was reported to people. Like suddenly, those people. So a lot of people using those medicine. They are in their 50s, 60s, and some of them started to grow new hair noticeably on their head. So they start balding, and then up they get new hair. So they're like, hey, great, that can be used for something else, yeah. So and then they started using this medicine that was initially for a medical known issue, and find a new field to be applied. Okay, in both cases they were rebranded and used for this new purpose with a patent. Okay, for that purpose. And that makes it tricky because, of course, people that who wants to get it for cheap, they can still go to the doctor and say, let's say you want to have, the first one was Viagra. You don't want to pay Viagra full price, so you go to your doctor and you say, oh, I have hypertension issues. You give me that medicine, okay, and you get it for the former price, and sometimes even the former version is not even protected anymore.
Yeah.
So it becomes really cheap.
But still, you don't have the certitude. You're not certain that it's exactly the same.
Effect, yeah, because sometimes they
Change it
potentialize
a
it
bit,
differently.
or
But still,
yeah.
that's a practice.
For
that is
aspirin,
well known.
that's a fact.
So 2 examples, one medicine, 2 different use, okay? And this is pretty common, and actually it exists in research. A lot of the research that happens nowadays, we have molecules for cancer research, for instance, okay? We have molecules that exist already, and we're like, oh, what if we apply that molecule? We never thought about this, but this molecule that works for Alzheimer or for Parkinson, maybe if we apply it to patients who have cancer, it may have an effect. And sometimes you would discover that someone was taking Parkinson medicine, has cancer, and it seems that his medicine is helping him with his cancer. So you're going to trigger new studies, and even within the same disease, you have different type of cancer. So you will try a medicine, and you will try to fill for, let's say, a bladder cancer, and then you're going to protect yourself from bladder cancer. But with further research, you will notice that it also works for liver cancer, or for breast cancer, and so on. Okay, so you're going to get several patents for one initial product that already exists. The product exists, but the application is new. Okay. Yes.
What happens with the authorship? Like, the author of the patent is considered to be the one that discovered this new use of the
So,
medicine? Or the
Of the new patent, yes, not
So-
of the old patent.
Yes, of the new.
So, two aspects. Vocabulary. Author is for author rights.
Not
what
For
patent.
patents, we speak about invention.
Yes, and
So
not
the
discovery.
person is an inventor. That's one of the people are really focused on this. I am really focused.
Because, especially for discovery, when you discover something, it means that it was already existing. If you invented it, you're supposed to have created it. So it didn't exist before.
What you discover is a treasure. If you're a pirate and you find a treasure, you discover the treasure. But you didn't make the treasure.
Well, or before, I would say.
Legally is this. If you find something,
if you're the
if
pirate,
you find something in your garden,
yeah.
like-
But if you attack the merchant ships, because you are the pirate, then you're creating the treasure.
Yeah, true.
So,
Sorry.
so the patent can be because of invention, in the case of I invented the medicine, or discovery, like I discovered a new functionality of this medicine?
No. You still be considered as an inventor because you're entering in the scope of the patent, okay? And the person that is patenting is discovering is not appropriate, is figuring out
Yeah.
a new problem or a new application, okay? And is still gonna be considered as the author of this new application of a known molecule, okay? That has a protection, but only for a different subject.
He will be the inventor of this new application.
So he cannot produce, he can only sell. Like in the case of medicine, can he produce because he has a patent?
So it depends if the first patent is still valid or not, because sometimes what we didn't say is that after those 20 years, we say that the patent falls into the public domain, okay? It means anyone can make it. You guys all know paracetamol, okay? We're all using paracetamol. I think it's in the public domain for, I don't know, 50 years. something
Maybe.
like that. So anyone can make it. Of course, you can brand it, you can shape it, mix it with different things. It's still paracetamol and it's still like available for everyone, okay? And sorry, I lost track and I lost your question.
So in case of the medicine, the first patent is still valid?
So if it's not valid anymore,
If it's valid.
you don't need to ask anyone for anything. If it's dependent, then
If it
you
is
are
still valid.
patent dependent. So in order to make it, you need to have the authorization of you have different type of patent, okay? Your patent can be a key patent and stop anyone else from using the process, for instance, to build that molecule and so on. And if the patent is protecting that first molecule, the creation of the molecule, then you need to ask authorization to the inventor of the first patent, okay? Your patent might be dependent on the first patent. It works even better if you think about electronic. Okay, you want to build a TV, so that's one of my standard example, or coffee machine or whatever. You want to build a TV, an OLED screen, or it has some like 30,000 patents that exist on OLEDs. But you may have 1,000, 2,000 patents that are key patents, okay?
They are necessary.
So you can use those key patents. If you don't have those key patents, you cannot make your OLED screen. But the rest, you don't really need it. There are extra features that come on the top, okay? If you want to make your OLED screen, and this OLED screen belongs to someone else, then you have to ask access to those patents. Some are standards. Someone asked me the question about standards last week. So if it's standard, then they have to grant you access to those patents. Okay? They cannot refuse it to you. But the price you're going to pay is going to be less, but they're going to be useful to everyone in the field. That's what happens for cell phone. Like a lot of the technology is used in cell phone. But if we speak about OLEDs, I think it's a bit more complicated. I don't know the market precisely. I know there's only 2 companies that are making OLEDs nowadays. So, is that answering your question or not? Yes, it does? Okay.
So here that was criteria 1 and 2, invention and industrial application. We'll give some example after. novelty criteria, which was not in the state of the art or the prior art. That's the same thing for me. That's the wording of the European patent law. Considered new if it does not form part of the state of the art. Literally, if you change just a little thing, then you will be novel. But it still has to be inventive. If you change only little things, it still will be obvious for a person's skill in the art of the products that was invented, of the invention. Yet, what does it mean, the state of the art? I told a bit before, but everything that was made available, not obligatory, not necessarily read and seen by the public or by anyone from the public, but just available is enough. Okay? When you have a thesis, you do your memo,
Manuscript.
your manuscript. Once it has been accepted, it just put in a shelf of the library. Now it's available, even if no one has ever taken it and read it. It is now available, so it's a part of the state of the art. So available and before the date of filing. That's the reason why it's very important to decide when you will file your patent application. We'll see, not too late because it can be too late, but not too early because after that there are money to pay, and also when it's too early, sometimes your invention is not yet very mature. Yeah.
Can I develop on this?
Sorry.
Can I develop on those precise facts? Can I develop?
Oui, bien sûr.
Two elements, because you spoke about it right now. I always receive the funny stories, so you know them better than you do. This idea of prior art, existing art, there was a story of a guy in Norway, that decided to
Norway or Sweden, I'm not sure.
one of those northern countries that we all know by heart.
Far, far away.
So the guy was working for a company, but I don't know, maybe he was a little bit paranoid or something.
Yeah, maybe.
He decided to publish some formulas in the local newspaper, where you have the obituaries or just the ads, and some equivalent of whatever business that no one reads. And he was just writing down those formulas there, and no one was reading them because no one cares and no one reads those publications, just like random ads. And at some point he got fired by the company.
Maybe he was right to be paranoid.
And so he decided to inform all the offices that those patents of that company are not valid because they all have been published before, actually by him, in the local newspaper. And he sent them the information, and all those patents fell because there was no option for them to be new anymore, to be considered new anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one example. Second, on the strategy is also company dependent. Okay, so you have to take in consideration here, those are technical information we're bringing to you. Okay, but you have to position yourself depending on who you are, where you are. So imagine you are in a startup or working for a big company. You're going to have two different strategies. Okay, for instance, if you take companies such as Huawei, in the field of telecommunication, their strategy was that when they started to grow fast and aggressive, they were filling patents every now and then, mature or not. And if you were an engineer working for Huawei, they would give you bonus at every patent they would fill, and you can do 10 a year if you want. They would all of them would be accepted, and they would fill all of them. The sooner the better. Okay, it means there was no real build strategy. It was a strategy of being a massive holder of patents, because this is how it works in this world of telecommunication. Okay, and
because
also they have the financial means, because it costs a lot of money.
It's very expensive.
Okay, when you're a startup, which might be your case at the beginning more, then you will have a different strategy. So is it important to have a patent? Yes. Why? Because the value of most of the technology startups are based on their IP, intellectual property. This IP is materialized through titles of property, okay, which in most of the cases are patents. These patents, they cost a little bit of money, but if you don't have IP, you're not going to raise money, okay? Because when
no one
develop,
will be able to copy you.
you need to go to like founders and then investment funds and ask for money, and they're going to say, okay, what are you doing? And if you say, well, I'm doing that, and they're going to ask you, okay, are you the only one doing this? Do you have anything protecting your intellectual property, your technique, if it's a technique, your invention, if it's an invention, which is...
I could do the same myself. Why should I
Yeah.
give money to you?
So you need to have this protection. So usually you start your company based on one invention or one innovation. Might not be protected right away. And also you can use this, and we're going to see that together later. There's a timeline when you're filing a patent. It takes time, okay? And the way you use this timeline is also a way for you to know how to grow as a company. So this information of when to file a patent or when not to file a patent, it just has to be technically mature. Okay? If it doesn't work, a patent that protects something that doesn't work is not really useful. Okay? Yeah?
So, what is, now I'm really like confused with the contract and the intellectual property, which is the patent also.
Mhm.
So, as a startup, you would go for an investor, you would sign a contract, non-disclosure.
Yes.
That's your idea.
That's
And
the
then-
first step.
Yes.
The NDA is the first step.
Yes, but like he can still go and sign a patent in his name because he knows the idea, or the contract will say like that was my idea.
So, no. The thing is, if it's not protected,
Yeah.
if it's not protected, yeah. If you have this title of property on the patent, nothing protects it. Okay, imagine we're in the office and you tell me I have a really great idea.
But we signed non-disclosure. We signed between us.
Yes, so you're gonna sue me on the basis of your non-disclosure agreement,
Yes.
okay? So I'm gonna pay you a financial compensation for not respecting my non-disclosure agreement. And I'm gonna make billions out of your idea. Am I gonna do it? Yes.
So the patent will not fall because
So
of
it-
the NDA.
Unless the information is already public, which you have to prove. Unless the information is already public, then you cannot fill the patent. But usually, if this information is transferred under a non-disclosure agreement, is not considered as a divulgation, which makes the information non-public.
And also, I'm not sure it's relevant, but even if you have a non-disclosure agreement with Karim, still, maybe someone else will be able to do the same invention, or even to know it from Karim, and he will not be concerned by the NDA. So maybe you will get some €1,000 from Karim, but the big company that is making billion with it, you will have no right against it. So you only will earn €1,000, maybe, if Karim can pay.
And yeah, this is important. If I transfer him the information you gave me,
We just
you're
pay
gonna
the-
sue me.
Yeah.
But what am I gonna say? I didn't say anything. I don't know where he gets his information from.
Yeah.
So then we have the burden of the proof that comes back.
And also maybe I have invented it by myself also. Several teams are often working on the same subjects. So it will be too late. So the NDA is the
It's
first
really
step.
important to have that NDA.
And then what's the point of the classification?
Okay, state of the art, the state of the art for the novelty, but that's almost the same thing for the inventive step. Not only novel, but also with an inventive step, not obvious. based on what was known before.
Maybe we can give an example.
Yes, which one you want? You have a
Whatever.
specific one?
No. It's just
Wow.
because I see some eyes, for example.
Yes, if
I have a question over
Mhm.
Ali's question.
Yes.
But it's about like if in this document that is a private document between two parties,
Yeah.
it's stated that something it's my idea and I am the inventor.
Then you have a proof.
Then that's enough to protect so that the other person cannot do the patent.
this one, yes, but not everyone else.
You can tell other person to.
Okay. So the thing is that that
We-
you
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 share
can
to
always
someone
transfer the
else's-
Yeah.
information.
Also,
But even if I yeah. Okay, because it's only the two parties the one that
Yes.
really know.
you cannot
Okay.
ask for NDA to everyone in the world.
This is a problem related to the course of creation, okay? In research, it is well known that you need to fill patents or at least keep proofs of your research. For
What's
simple, for a simple reason. Okay, let's imagine whatever subject you can think of. Let's say you're specialized in, I don't know, Z of Z domain of derivative, whatever mathematical ideas that you have. Well, when you're that specialized, there's maybe what, 10, 20 people in the world working on the same subject? 100 people max? All those people, they have the same knowledge. They are at the same level of research as you, okay? So if you're working on a new lead, the chances that there's another lab somewhere else working on the exactly same idea is pretty high. And the chances that you might fill a patent and someone else might fill a patent more or less at the same time is actually pretty high. And it happens regularly that people think they are the inventor of something, and no, it's too late. Someone has invented it like weeks before, and they didn't know yet. Okay?
And in the case of the guy that published the things on the newspaper, could that guy then get a patent of these things since he published
No, because it's
it?
public. The
So even
problem,
if-
once it's
Not,
public, it's
not even
public
the
for
same
everyone.
Okay, not even if I was the one who published it.
Except
Public.
in some case in the US for a limited period of time.
Okay.
Inventive step.
So yeah,
Yeah.
example of inventive. The thing is, it has not to be obvious. So if it's something that the skilled person, not me, just
A skilled
a
person in
specialist
this
of the
field.
field, a specialist of the field, not incredibly good, but good enough, is able to find out this idea by himself. You know, like just
If you want to replace a nail by a screw, most of the case that won't be inventive. That may be novel, if before there were only nail. But if the fact that you put a screw instead of the nail is not changing anything, it won't be inventive.
it's a way to picture a certain intellectual effort in the creation. It's not obvious, okay? If it's just like so obvious to everyone, then it's gonna be added to the
It's not
state of the
trivial.
art.
Regarding the example that you put on researchers,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how researchers deal with having patents and also publishing their work.
It's a little bit contradictory, you're right, but so patents are considered as A-ranked publication, okay? So
A-ranked?
A-ranked.
Rank.
You know, you have different level of publication.
Rank.
Okay.
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 So ranked A-ranked
Ranked.
Okay.
Okay.
publication. So they're a publication of the best quality, that's considered so. That's theoretical, of course, because usually researchers still would prioritize usually newspapers, paired reviews like Nature or whatever, the English journal of whatever, over patent. But
They
had
shouldn't.
been educated also to the fact that intellectual property could be protected. And it's a debate between I am a researcher and I'm paid by the, let's say I'm paid by the state, and I want my work to be available to the state. meaning to everyone.
Yeah.
And some people that have more this knowledge of being a little bit more individualistic and this aim of private property, and they're going to protect through patents, considering that that can lead to something else. For instance, a lot of researchers now are pushed towards startup business. You're going to tell them, okay, you had the, like in your lab, we figure out that you had this really good development. Maybe if you work a little bit more and we're going to finance you, we're going to give you 200,000 just to have a proof of concept of your work. And oh yes, it works. Maybe we can file a patent for that. Yeah, and maybe we can try to like bring a business to you to the lab, and you can be involved in that patent. Either you stay in the lab and you become like a scientific advisor to the company, or you want to have a position in the company, you want to have share in the company so you can make money. And they start computing all this. They're pretty smart people, so usually it goes fast. And some people decide to walk that path. Some other people are, let's say, a bit more old school, and they would be like, me, everything needs to be, especially in the computer science business. Yeah. A lot of people are like, okay, everything needs to be free, and anything and everything
Wow.
needs to be shared by everyone.
Still another sub part, because anyway you can first apply for a patent and the next
Yes.
day publish. That's possible. You won't have any problem with your patent. If you do the reverse, you won't have your patent. But if you do patent first and the next day published, it's okay. Now, as Karen said, especially in computer, some people think that there shouldn't be patent at all. But that's more a philosophical point of view.
Yeah.
That's not a juridical or business point of view.
And patent office or valorization offices of places like Central Sucre, where I work, one of our business, one of our activity is this activity. Like, okay, we have a paper to publish in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks, and we want to fill a patent. And they're like, okay, 2 weeks to fill a patent. It's a really short time. Yeah, so because you have to write it down, you have to review it before you even fill it in front of the office. So that's what they're trying to do. They try to file the patent as fast as possible, and then you will see again when you see the process that it's not at the moment of filing that your patent becomes part of it. So then you can have your publication and wait for the patent to go through the whole process, which takes several months and several years.
The patents are published, all of them, but only 1 year and a half after the filing.
Okay, and you can publish the paper on that after it is published, or
Mm.
or after
No,
it is accepted?
you can publish in a paper just the day after you filed.
Ah, okay.
Sometimes it's not very interesting because you may want to keep the secret for business reason,
Ah,
but from the patent point of view, you may publish in paper just the day after.
okay.
Why would you want to keep that secret on this? Because once you have these really good ideas, as long as it stays secret, you may go on with your development till you're ready to put the product on the market.
And you will be in advance of your competitors.
Yeah, maybe some people do not file any patent because they think that people will not figure out how are they doing it, right?
So that's a different, it's not patents anymore. It's what we call usually know-how. Okay, that is protected. So if you're sure that things cannot be reproduced, that's what we use also as an example. I used to remember a long time back, there used to be a chip that was in processed inside some amber, or what's the name of
In polyester or
like plastic,
something like that.
and if you want to have access to the chip, you need to break it. So useless. And they were like, it's a good protection enough. We need to fill the patent. So that's one way of protecting it. But this know-how, the best key to protect it is secret. Okay, it's a know-how as long as it remains secret. This is also why the secrecy and the non-disclosure agreement have their own value.
Some companies are really capitalizing almost all on the secrecy, such as Michelin, French manufacturer for the tires for cars. And I've been saying that even on their production machine,
Machine too.
the machine,
How do you like?
in the factory,
Yeah.
the temperature are not figured in real degrees. That's arbitrary scales with numbers that the worker can adjust, but they don't know which real temperature it is. So no one knows it except for the research and development engineers,
Okay.
because there are a lot of secrecy. The other example for secrecy is Coca-Cola.
The secret format.
Yeah, because if the recipe of Coca-Cola had been patented, it would be long ago in the public domain. Well, inventive step for a person skilled in the art, such as can say a normal technician, but with access to all documents of the prior art. Important. Well, okay, it's important for me. Well, still a bit of French, sorry. Patentability criteria 1 and 2 in invention in an industrial field, which is novel compared to the state of the art, and which is also inventive compared to the same state of the art. Okay? Because it's yes, and now we have some example of non-patentable fields. Some because they are not seen as invention, such as aesthetic and mental acts. There is no business patents anymore in the US, almost. And which is not non-patentable because it's considered as not industrial, such as medical, in some field in the medical field, biological, and also part of the computer field. And now we'll have the example. As for biological, there are many exclusions. Cloning, human beings, cloning is not patentable. Modifying the human genetics also, it's not patentable. Or just have a thing in mind. I'm talking about patentable or not patentable. That's not the same thing as allowed or forbidden. That's not at all the same law. You may have the right to patent a nuclear bomb, while very probably you don't have the right to do it, to make it. Okay, yeah.
We just said that we cannot patent an idea. It has to be presented. No?
Yes, but the idea is only the intellectual part.
Yeah.
It's not considered as an invention.
Yes.
What you do with your ID, the way of doing something, that can be patented if it's novel, but not if it is in one of these fields, because those are exceptions. Well, human cloning is also forbidden in a lot of countries, but that's another problem. Okay, so you see human embryos, not for research, but for industrial and commercial, it's not patentable. Oh, this point, modifying the genetics of animals. It is patentable. You may have a patent for it, except if it's doing, if the concerned animal is suffering from it, then it's not patentable. Except if this suffering is used for the human for the human science, and then it's still patentable. The exclusion of the exclusion. therapeutic and chirurgical process. Therapeutics, that's because the doctor should be allowed to do the right thing, whatever the patents. It does not include the tools or the drugs, only the way of doing things. And chirurgical, especially because it's quite dangerous. Human body in itself is not patentable. A sequence of a gene, it's not patentable in itself. Yeah? The application of it may be patentable, but the sequence in itself, the one that you have in your body, it's not patentable because your body is not patentable. No one can have a patent on your body. And a lot of sequences of gene are in everybody's body. Other exclusion, well, animal and biological process, mainly because there are other ways of protecting it. Well, software. Now, here about software, and after that, maybe, no, that's all. On fait une pause ou pas? Non, peut-être pas. Ou une pause
Need
question?
one, a break.
Yes, please.
Okay.
5 minutes.
In a few minutes. Not yet. Sorry. Well, as for the software, there are differences according to the countries. At the beginning, there were no problem for patenting computer software in the US, but in Europe and especially in France, as well, we were quite late in the technical field. The European, the French and European patent law has been made for, well, not having patent on our territories. So it has been forbidden to patent software. Now, so in the US, that was okay, a lot of software patents. Here in Europe and France, there were no patent software, but more and more specialists like me did get patents not for software, not for a software program, but for method of processing electronic data, which sounds more technical. And well, we got quite certain number of patents, including software. Je ne sais pas si j'ai ensuite mon truc sur le déroulé des innovations software. Well, 20 years ago there was a bit of a harsh more application of the law. Now it's almost, well, still it's possible to have patent not on the software in itself, but on the method that is employed, that is embodied by the software. So it has to be very, very inventive in order to get a patent, and it's quite more difficult to get a patent in software than in any other technologies, but it's still possible. And as for the US, several recent late decisions made it more difficult, also maybe because there was a bit of excess in the practice of the American office. So just remember that for the software, that's only the method in itself, not the program code. Remember, the program code, that's authorized. But the method within the software, it's possible to get a patent, but it's quite more difficult. As it's possible, and as there are a lot of money in it, well, of course, there are a lot of patents in this field, but it's more difficult, and so more expensive also. Oh yes, for the software. That's quite chronological. The ID, as we said, that's not protectable. The technical specification, what you want to obtain, that cannot be protected by an intellectual property right. As for the software, the method part, the main principle, a patent is possible while the the program code in itself, the source code or the compiled code, that's more authoring right. Okay, and as for the last part, also remember that in a lot of countries there is a forbidden about virtual engineering. So for the software, one part is patentable. It's useful because you don't have to limit your protection to the language, for example. But the last part, the code in itself, that's for through the otherwise that you can have a protection on it. Well, I think now is the time for the few minutes.